سورة فاطر آية 11 صفحة 435. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والله خلقكم من تراب ثم من نطفة ثم جعلكم أزواجا وما تحمل من أنثى ولا تضع إلا بعلمه وما يعمر من معمر ولا ينقص من عمره إلا في كتاب إن ذلك على الله يسير. وما يستوي البحران هذا عذب فرات سائغ شرابه هذا عذب فرات سائغ شرابه وهذا ملح أجاج ومن كل تأكلون لحما طريا وتستخرجون حلية تلبسونها وترى الفلك فيه مواخر لتبتغوا من فضله ولعلكم تشكرون. يولج الليل في النهار ويولج النهار في الليل وسخر الشمس والقمر كل يجري لأجل مسمى ذلكم الله ربكم له الملك ذلكم الله ربكم له الملك ذلكم الله ربكم له الملك والذين تدعون من دونه ما يملكون من قطمير إن تدعوهم
لا يسمعوا دعاءكم ولو سمعوا ما استجابوا لكم ويوم القيامة يكفرون بشرككم ولا ينبئك مثل خبير. يا أيها الناس أنتم الفقراء إلى الله والله هو الغني الحميد. إن يشأ يذهبكم ويأت بخلق جديد وما ذلك على الله بعزيز. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلى الله على محمد وآل محمد.
Let's have another loud salawat ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Ziyara will be recited by Sheikh Ahmad after the Majlis, inshallah. Before we begin, a few announcements I'd like to give. Laylat Ashur. So tomorrow morning, as I announced yesterday, at 9 a.m. sharp, inshallah, we want to begin the maqtal. It's about a 2-hour maqtal, I'd say. It's pretty long, so inshallah, make sure you come early so you can get yourself a inshallah. Tomorrow as well, time 6:45. We're gonna have Sham Ghariba, like the events that happen after Imam Hussein alayhi salam was martyred, and we're gonna continue these nightly programs till the night 13, inshallah. Furthermore, every Saturday at the MIW, inshallah, during Muharram and Safar, we have programs, assuming the Delta variant doesn't ruin everything. And yeah, two last reminders that I've been given for a while. The reviews in Q&A. If you guys have any questions you want to ask Sheikh Ahmad in these last few coming nights, make sure that you write in legible handwriting so he can read it. And of course, the reviews, the surveys, definitely give us any sort of feedback in terms of Quran, MC, the khatib, the actual majlis itself, COVID safety, just be nice yet critical at the same time. And I believe that should be it. And of course, donate, inshallah, if you're able to give, inshallah. Sallu ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Now for the majlis, let's welcome up Sheikh Ahmad Bazzi with a loud salawat ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Second one for the love of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Third one for love of Al-Hasan wal Hussein. Fourth one for the love of Rubab, the mother of At-Tifl al-Saghir. Let's have the last one for the love of Sahib al-Asri wal Zaman.
على حب فاطمة وأبيها وبعلها وبنيها صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. وعجل فرجهم يا كريم. Tonight, inshallah, isn't the last night we are together. There's other nights, inshallah, but for some, since it may be the last night for some, let's have a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad and show our wala for Ahl al-Bayt together. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. وعجل فرجهم يا كريم. Inshallah, the ziyarah will be after the majlis, but before I begin, I just want to stress on you helping out as much as you possibly can in these nights with your blessed donations. Because as you know, these majalis, they take energy from the great brothers here, but also they take funds and help from you guys as well, right? And ultimately, this is a breeding ground, inshallah, not a breeding ground, a harvest, inshallah, a planting ground, afwan, for the akhirah, and also for your own futures. So what you plant here, you harvest later on, inshallah ta'ala. So don't forget to help as much as possible. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا رسول الله صلى الله عليك يا حبيب الله صلى الله عليك يا مولاي وابن مولاي يا أبا عبد الله الحسين وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك يا رحمة الله الواسعة ويا باب نجاة الأمة غريب يا مظلوم كربلاء يا ليتنا كنا معكم سادتي فنفوز والله فوزا عظيما. For the love of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajah. For the love of Sayyida Zainab alayha salam, let's have a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And the last one, for the love of Sahib al-Asri wa Zaman, who is the one that we are consoling tonight and tomorrow specifically. Let's have a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The revolution of Abi Abdullah al-Husayn alayhi salam is one that is deeply connected with all aspects of our religion. One can learn from Abi Abdullah al-Husayn alayhi salam lessons in morality, and if you're a scholar into the Hawza discussions and studies, you can learn jurisprudential aspects or jurisprudential laws and rulings and ideas from the revolution of Abi Abdullah. Similarly, you can learn aqa'id, beliefs, looking into Abi Abdullah alayhi salam's words on the day of Ashura, before, maybe even after, in the words of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, the aftermath of the battle of Karbala. But there's one aspect of Islam, my brothers and sisters, that is deeply connected with the revolution of the Imam alayhi salam in the persona of Abi Abdullah al-Husayn, and that is the concept of the Mahdi, Sahib al-Asri wal-Zaman, which you probably have noticed the pattern that we constantly remembered him throughout these nights. Not that we don't remember him in the other nights, in the other majalis, but subhanallah, Imam Al-Mahdi a.j. ta'ala farajahu al-Sharif deeply connects with Ashura to a point where even if you try to avoid talking about the Imam alayhi salam in some way, you want to focus on social topics, mathalan, he always comes up. Because ultimately you're going to speak about the sacrifice of the Imam and then link that sacrifice to our modern day, which is linking it back to Sahib al-Amri wal-Zaman alayhi salamullah. The topic of Sahib al-Amri wal-Zaman is deeply linked to Ashura, but as we said before just a second ago, deeply linked to Abi Abdullah al-Hussein as an Imam. Yes, as a revolutionist, yes, as a freedom fighter, yes, as somebody that was standing up for Islam as a whole, absolutely. But also linked to Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam as an Imam. For example, the riwayah says, one of the riwayat from Ahl al-Bayt alayhim salam, I don't have the nas, I don't have the actual hadith, but I'm going to narrate it through meaning. It says, when you have the names Muhammad, sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, when you have the names of Muhammad, Ali and Hassan come one after the other again amongst the Imams, then know the last one is Al-Qa'im, Sahib al-Asri wal-Zaman. So if we go back, we see we have Muhammad al-Jawad, Ali al-Hadi, Al-Hassan al-Askari, then Sahib al-Amri wal-Zaman. But go to the beginning of the list. You have Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Ali Amir al-Mu'mineen, Al-Hasan al-Mujtaba. Then you have the one who rose and stood up. The same way that Sahib al-Asri wal-Zaman will rise and stand up, you had the one that rose and stood up in the name of Hussein. So you find there's this connection between Sahib al-Amri wal-Zaman alayhi salam and Abi Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam. And subhanallah, it's as if what happened in Karbala, in one way or another, maybe not in the result, but in the uprise, is a foreshadowing of what will happen with Sahib al-Amri wal-Zaman alayhi salam. But ultimately the result will be different. Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam is slaughtered on the plains of Karbala only to make way for his son that will make the sun rise again. But this time it will not set. Rather, the sun will shine over the lands and rid the earth of injustice as it was filled with injustice and tyranny. Sahib al-Asri wal-Zaman. Tonight, we are with Sahib al-Asri wal-Zaman to console him. But why not be with him to explore his merit, his virtue, what he will do, what he will accomplish, why he will stand, when he will stand, and how do you know when he will stand? Tonight, my brothers and sisters, we are with Sahib al-Asri wal-Zaman. And so let's begin with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad for Imam Al-Mahdi. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Tu'ajjil farajahum ya kareem. As for the discussion of the Mahdi, the word Mahdi, my brothers and sisters, means the guided one. Al-Mahdi, the one that is guided. Ultimately, him being guided means he will guide and bring the people out of their misery and treachery and darkness into light. This idea of a man, an individual coming at the end of time to save humanity from the treacheries of evil and what they created for themselves and darkness that they created for themselves, is not one that is specific to the Shia sect. Rather, it is an idea that we say or we call mutawatir. What does mutawatir mean? Both sides, our fellow brothers and sisters from the Sunni side and also from the Shia side, we agree that at the end of time or near the end of time, a man by the name of Al-Mahdi will come about, will rise and bring justice back to the earth. The riwayat about him, yes, differ between the Shia side and the Sunni side. Some Sunni narrations say that he is from the lineage of Imam Al-Hasan alayhi salam, not from the lineage of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Many riwayat, if not most of them, maybe you'll find one or two riwayat that say he was born and he will come back after, but most riwayat say that he will be born in the future. I'm talking about our Sunni brothers and sisters. So there is a difference in the details. But the idea of a Mahdi, the idea of a savior coming back to save humanity, is there amongst all of the Muslimin. And it is one that is not deniable, not denied whatsoever. Rather, go broader than that. The idea of the Mahdi is not specific to Muslimin. No. The idea of the savior that will come at the end of time is not one that is specific to the Muslims. Rather, the idea of the Mahdi, concept of the Mahdi, is found in Jewish literature, where the son of David will come back, or the son of Solomon will come back at the end of time and will rise again. Christian faith, even Hindu faith, an individual will come back and rid humanity of the darkness of its own evil. This idea, my brothers and sisters, is one that is deeply rooted in the religions of humanity. And that's why when Sahib al-Asri wal-Zaman alayhi salam comes back, the Buddhist will follow in the footsteps of the enlightened one. The Jew will look at the son of David or the son of Solomon and walk in his footsteps. The Muslim will see the man that these riwayat spoke about 1,400 years ago and walk in his footsteps. Shia and Sunni alike, naam. Some will stand in his face. Some will stand in front of him. But ultimately, he will have the masses behind him and the people with him. The riwayat say, he will judge in accordance to people's beliefs and faiths. He will speak to the Jewish person through the Torah, the Christian man through the Bible. He will speak their languages and understand their way of thinking and bring them closer to him. He will be their savior just as he is ours. You ask Ahmad, what is the state of the earth? What is happening at that time? Tell me. Maybe I'm from those that witness it. Maybe I'm from those that witness Sahib al-Asri wal-Zaman's return, alayhi salamullah. I tell you, my brothers and sisters, the hadith about the events and what's going on at the time are many. So we're going to split them into different categories, starting with the most general and going to the more specific. And by the way, this is a very good method to use if you're doing a presentation, a discussion. And generally, I like to organize my lectures in this way. Start with what's general and then go to what's specific and branch off. That's how the mind works. Let's go to the more general riwayat and ask the general question of, what is the state of the earth as a whole? If I was to describe it in one sentence, what would be the general state of the earth? Yani, if there was aliens looking down on us and they were to report back to their commander with one sentence, one clause, what would that clause be? It would be hadith Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, where he says, Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. He says, لو لم يبق من الدنيا إلا يوم لطول الله ذلك اليوم حتى يبعث رجلا مني يواطئ اسمه اسمي واسم أبيه اسم أبي يملأ الأرض عدلا كما ملئت ظلما. If there was only one day on the earth, Allah will prolong that day until a man from my lineage, his name is my name. He's known through what I'm known for in terms of his father's name or the kunya that he has, Abu al-Qasim. He will be known through my name. But this is not what we want. Put that aside. يَمْلَأُ الْأَرْض عَدْلًا وَقِسْطًا كَمَا مُلِئَتْ ظُلْمًا وَجَوْرًا. The earth at the time will be filled with injustice, fasad, tyranny, evil, darkness. Every single corner of the earth will be filled with injustice. The word muli'at, mala'ah, means to fill. And when you fill something to the brim, to the top, every corner, every piece, every angle, every contour of that container is filled with the fluid, with the liquid. Every angle of the earth is filled with fasad. It's filled with tyranny and injustice. Is that the meaning, or can we get the general meaning that generally the entire earth is filled with injustice and people are living in their own tyranny and evil? Both meanings, wallahu alam, can suffice. This is the general state of the earth. Jamil, you tell me, Ahmad, Tayyib, what is the general state? But give me some specifics. I'll tell you 3 things. Or we'll look into 3 things together. Number 1, the general state of the people at the time of Sahib al-Asri was Zaman. How will the people be? How will the nation be? How will society operate? Number 1. Number 2, what are the cosmic events that are happening at the time? What's happening in the sky? Number 3, what is the state of the nations? And not the cosmic events of the sky, but also the geological events. Number 2. Number 3, what is the state of the nation? Rather, the nations. Humanity as a whole. Talk about society, and you talk about humanity as a whole. What's going on? And tonight, my brothers and sisters, we're going to be depending on riwayat. A lot of riwayat and reading them from their sources, inshaAllah ta'ala. Because ultimately, to read the riwayah from this source is number 1, barakah. Number 2, we get the exact words of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam as it's narrated by them. Number 1, the people of the time. Look at this riwayah. Listen to this riwayah. And compare. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم فقلت يا ابن رسول الله متى يخرج قائمكم when will the قائم return قال إذا تشبه الرجال بالنساء والنساء بالرجال واكتفى الرجال بالرجال والنساء بالنساء. He says, when men begin to look like women and women begin to look like men, and men are sufficed with other men, satisfied, and women suffice and are satisfied with other women. And the Imam alayhi salam is not speaking about some people that will do this. No, it will become normalized in society, where society will become known for this. It will become normal in society to see this, where the red line or the difference between genders is blurred. And if you look into history, some historians, they try to say, whenever nations begin to discuss gender and they start to look into these different ideas of these clear-cut things such as gender, such as sexuality, things of that nature, and become engrossed in these things, subhanallah, that's where that nation fails. Put that aside. Until he says, وَقُبِلَتْ شَهَادَاتِ الزُّورِ وَرُدَّتْ شَهَادَاتِ الْعَدْلِ. The testimony of the just is rejected, and the testimony of the unjust, the liar, is accepted. وَاسْتَخَفَّ النَّاسِ بِالدِّمَاءِ وَارْتِكَابُ الزِّنَا. And people have absolutely no problem when it comes to people's blood. The spilling of blood. وَارْتِكَابُ الزِّنَا, and committing adultery, وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ, where it's normal. It's normal. وَأَكْلُ الرِّبَا, and eating interest, taking interest, living off interest. وَاتُّقِيَ الْأَشْرَارِ وَاتُّقِيَ الْأَشْرَارِ مَخَافَةَ أَلْسِنَتِهِمْ. And the evil person is or becomes feared because of their tongues. Let's go one by one. The person's testimony, the one that is just, the just person's testimony is rejected, while the kadhab, the liar, is accepted. Well, if it makes sense, then it doesn't matter who is the one that is standing up. They could be a liar, they could be a truthful person. If this is what is best, then absolutely no problem. We'll let it fly, we'll let it slide. It doesn't matter if this person is known to be a liar. It doesn't matter if this person is known to be unjust. We will consider him to be a credible source of information. Number 1. Number 2, استخف الناس بالدماء. The people will have absolutely no problem hearing in Afghanistan and Pakistan 13 people were killed in a car bomb. عادي. It's fine. It's okay. It's normal. As long as it's not happening in my backyard, I'm good. Even if it was happening in my backyard, as long as it's not me, it's okay. Hundreds of people were killed and their bodies dropped and thrown in the Euphrates. عادي. I'm not Kurdish. I'm not Yazidi. I'm not living in Iraq. عادي. It's not a problem for me. استخف الناس بالدماء. Blood is normal. عادي. This is a part of life. Until it comes to our own home. Until it comes to me. It affects me. I don't care. Look at the mentality of the people. They've become immune to blood. Immune to blood. Keep going. وارتكاب الزنا. ارتكاب الزنا, the honor of another human being. دم والأعراض. Blood and honor, sanctity. Sanctity. Zina. Committing adultery is normal, normalized. Relationships before marriage, normal. عادي, no problem. People let go of the two things that make us human beings. Sahab al-Amri wa Zaman is going to come back and give us the very humanity we threw away. Or humans at the time, people at that time throw away. Not us, inshallah. Those people. They throw away. Number one, ad-dima' wal-a'rad. Blood and honor. Jamil. This is one riwayah. But let me read you another riwayah, and it's scary. Scary how close it is to home. Not saying this is Asr al-Dhuhur, no. But you find similarities. And it really opens your eyes. Look at this riwayah, my brothers and sisters. The riwayah is عن محمد بن مسلم. قال سأل رجل أبا عبد الله متى يظهر قائمكم. He says, Muhammad bin Muslim says, a man asked Aba Abdullah, Imam Al-Sadiq, when will the Qa'im return? And so the Imam alayhi salam described to him the state of the people. Look what he said. He says, وَكَثُرَ الجَّوْرُ وَالْفَسَادِ. Tyranny, evil will become widespread. وَقَلَّ الصَّلَاحُ وَالسَّدَادِ. And goodness, righteousness becomes rare. وَاكْتَفَ الرِّجَالِ بِالرِّجَالِ وَالنِّسَاء بِالنِّسَاء. Homosexuality, these things become very normal. Number one. وَمَالَ الْفُقَهَاءُ إِلَى الدُّنْيَا. Allah, this is for me. I'm not a faqih, but standing on this pulpit really makes me think. And the scholars, the ulama, not our ulama inshallah, scholars, they lean towards dunya. They lean towards the desires of this world. Ya Allah. وَأَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ إِلَى الْأَشْعَارِ وَالشُّعَرَاءِ. And people resort back to poets and their poems. What do you mean they resort back? They return to them. Their minds, their culture, their lives, what they deem right, what they deem wrong, goes back to the poets and their poems. The media? Maybe. Pop culture? Maybe. Music? Absolutely. Music is poetry at a rhythm. With a rhythm. Singing, songs, music, words, poetry. Where human beings don't filter information anymore. Wallahu al-alim. Don't filter information anymore. Rather, they take information from the media, from poets. And that changes their ideology about what's right and what's wrong. And I'll give you an example of this. I'll give you a perfect example of this. When I was young, okay, not when I was young, 30, 40 years ago, there was things that were taboo for a 15, 14-year-old boy or man to know or to understand or talk about. Similarly, girls as well. Things were taboo. If not 30 years ago, not 40, I'll tell you 50 or 60. Certain things were taboo. Certain things were not widespread. There was still an amount of dignity in the world. As opposed to today, where a 6-year-old boy is listening to some song that has immense sexual references, a lot of references to drugs. And these things that were taboo 60 years ago are now acceptable. And I'll give you a prime example from my own childhood. When we were young in public school, you guys know the school, Prince Edward School, very close to here. I remember I was in grade maybe 5 or 6, maybe even less. We were sitting in the class and just started like a drug program, where they had someone come to us and talk to us about drugs, right? And they were extremely adamant on speaking about marijuana, that it was the gateway drug and you should not even try it, even if it does not have the effects of, said, heroin, for example, and other intense drugs and hard drugs. That was something that was literally like shoved down our throats, to a point where up until today, I'm 26 and I still remember that same classroom meeting with that person and what they were saying to us. Exactly, the exact words, that it's a gateway drug. Today, you have rappers, I'm not even going to say their name because Mimbar Abi Abdullah al-Hussein alayhi salam is higher than that. But I know their names. We know their names. These people that normalized, and I can name you 5 or 6, normalized the taking of drugs. Adi. Now in our minds, don't say to anyone, don't say anyone, but in your minds, can you think of 3 people in the community that do drugs, that smoke marijuana? No, absolutely. Absolutely. All of us can. 50 years ago, no way. Why? Pop culture, poetry, music, the music industry that has made its way into each and every one of our homes before. 20 years ago, you didn't have access to music at the palm of your hand. Right now, you go to a YouTube video and you have an ad. I want to put for my son, for example, Teletubbies. I don't even know if Teletubbies is a thing anymore. The first thing that comes up is what? An ad. And music. Even if it's 4 or 5 seconds. Normalizing. Then this child grows up and it's normal for them. And so, at the age of 10 or 11 or 12, they're listening to music that's extremely vulgar. Especially today with Spotify, where there's no censoring. No censoring. The state of the people, my brothers and sisters. Watch out. Number 1. As for the state of the nation, state of the nations, humanity as a whole. What's going on with humanity as a whole? The riwayah from Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, he says, Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Rather, the Imam Al-Sadiq alayhi salam, he says these words, listen. قدام القائم موتان. Before the coming of Al-Qa'im, there are 2 deaths. What do you mean 2 deaths? 2 types of death. Listen. موت أحمر وموت أبيض. The red death and the white death. حتى يذهب من كل 7 5. Until out of every 7 human beings, 5 die. طيب, what's the red death? What's the white death? الموت الأحمر السيف. The red death is war, blood. والموت الأبيض الطاعون. And the white death is الطاعون, which you can understand as disease, or a specific type of disease. Around 2/3 of the world, according to these riwayat, and there's other riwayat that speak of the same madmoon, same idea, same meaning. 2/3 of the world will die. 1 from war, 1 from disease. And then the last third will stay alive, will be around. That's the state of humanity. As for the state of the world and its phenomenons in the sky and on earth, 2. Riwayah says that the earth itself, there will be many earthquakes, a lot of earthquakes, that the geological state of the earth will be in unrest, number 1, and big earthquakes, number 1. Number 2, there is a riwayah that says, and I will read it for you inshallah, that in 1 month, before the coming of Sahib al-Amri wa Zaman, in 1 month, 2 eclipses will happen. the moon will be eclipsed, and the sun will be eclipsed. Listen. عن أبي جعفر كنت جالسا عند أبي جعفر فقال آيتان تكونان قبل قيام القائم. The narrator says, I was with Abi Ja'far al-Baqir alayhi salam. And so he said to me, two signs will happen before the coming of Al-Qa'im, صاحب الأمر والزمان. طيب, what are they? لم تكونا منذ هبط آدم إلى الأرض. And these two things have never happened together since Adam has come down to earth. And this is in Al-Kafi, by the way. Credible source to what we know. Not to say every riwayah in Al-Kafi is credible, but it's a credible source altogether. He says, تنكسف الشمس في النصف من شهر رمضان. The sun will be eclipsed in the middle of Shahr Ramadan. والقمر في آخره. And the moon will be eclipsed in the end. فقال رجل, a man says, يا ابن رسول الله تنكسف الشمس في آخر الشهر والقمر في النصف. Or the other way around rather. I think there's a mistake in the riwayah. He asks, is this actually going to happen? فقال أبو جعفر إني أعلم ما أقول ولكنهما آيتان لم يكونا منذ هبط آدم. أو إني أعلم ما تقول. I know what you're saying. Maybe there's a mistake in the riwayah, in the way that it was transcribed or put in the book. He says, but I know what I'm saying. In the middle, تنكسف الشمس, the sun will be eclipsed. In the end, the moon will be eclipsed. جميل. This is what's happening in general. This is what's happening in general. طيب, you tell me, Ahmad, طيب, what are the signs? What are the signs? When it comes to the signs, my brothers and sisters, the signs of Sahib al-Asri wa Zaman's return, there are many signs. And we can split them into two categories. We have al-ala'im al-hatmiyah and al-ala'im ghayr al-hatmiyah. The signs that will 100% occur, or they are the big signs, let's call them, the major signs. And then there are general events that happen. As for the general events, there are many. You can have 3 or 4 lectures about the general events of the different nations. What's happening in the Arab world, what's happening with the Turks, what's happening in Syria, what's happening, and all of these different riwayat are in these books. But let's focus on al-alamat al-hatmiyah, the signs that will occur 100% and they are considered to be the major signs. And we'll go through them together. Listen. And they are from the riwayah of Imam Al-Sadiq alayhi salam. And they are 5. He says, it's narrated that he says, قبل قيام القائم خمس علامات محتومات. There are 5 major signs before the coming of Al-Qa'im. Number 1, Al-Yamani, the man from Yemen. Number 2, As-Sufyani, the man that is related to or from the lineage of Banu Sufyan, or Abi Sufyan rather. Was-Sayha, and the scream in the sky. وَقَتْلُ النَّفْسِ الزَّكِيَّةِ, and the killing of the pure soul. وَالْخَسِفْ بِالْبَيْدَاءِ, the splitting of the earth in a place called Al-Bayda. طيب, let's look at the first one. Let's look at one of the first one, or one of the ones that was mentioned, and we'll go in order. As-Sayha, the call in the sky. What's As-Sayha? Riwayat say, close to Sahib al-Asri wa Zaman's return, if not in the exact day of the return, a voice will be heard in the sky. That voice will be the voice of Jibreel, calling the people to Sahib al-Asri wa Zaman. What does he say? He says, Ya ibad Allah, O servants of Allah, isma'u ma aqul, listen to what I'm saying. Inna hadha al-Mahdi, أو إن هذا مهدي آل محمد خارج من أرض مكة. This is the Mahdi from Ali Muhammad. He has come back, returned in the land of Mecca. In the land of Mecca. Other riwayat, they come and they say that the sayha will not be 1, rather it will be 2. Stay with me. 2. The first one will be Jibreel in the beginning of the day, أول النهار. And the words of Jibreel will be heard by everyone in their respective languages, or they may be in Arabic, but everyone will understand the words of Jibreel when he says them. The riwayah says, even the person that is in their home and the door is closed on them will hear the words of Jibreel clearly. Some riwayat say, if you are standing, you will sit down when you hear the words of Jibreel. And if you're sitting, you will stand up. It will shake you to the core. And if you're lying down, you will sit up. And then, at the end of the day, there will be another sayha. Another call in the sky. This time, who is it? Iblis. What will he say? Let's take you to the riwayah. And Abi Hamza al-Thumali an Imam Abi Abdullah al-Sadiq alayhi salam, he says, Abu Hamza al-Thumali, he says, وَكَيْفَ يَكُونُ النِّدَاء? And how is this sayha going to be? How is this scream between the heavens and the earth going to be? قال ينادي منادي من السماء أول النهار يسمعه كل قوم بألسنتهم. There will be, in the beginning of the day, a call in the sky. Everyone will hear the call in their mother tongue, in the language they understand, saying, ألا إن الحق في علي وشيعته. What will the sayha say? What will the individual say? Jibreel, he will say, truth is with Ali and his Shia. ثم ينادي إبليس آخر النهار أو في آخر النهار من الأرض. And then Iblis will call from the earth and say, ألا إن الحق في عثمان وشيعته. Al-Haq is with Uthman and his Shia, his party. فعند ذلك يرتاب المبطلون. And at that point in time will be the true test. طيب. We understand the sayha. We understand the contents of the sayha. Why is the sayha significant? Because all of the other signs are in one way or another natural phenomenons. Yani the Turks moving towards this area in the Middle East, or the Syrians doing this, مثلا, or this masjid's wall will crack, مثلا. You can explain those away as natural phenomenon. But a call in the sky that everyone will hear with their mother tongue, with the language that they speak, or through the language that they speak, is unnatural. And so it will be a sign that no one can reject when they stand in front of Allah يوم القيامة. You ask me, we understand Ali wa Shi'atih, Uthman wa Shi'atih. Uthman, the third Khalifa, maybe. But some ulama, they say, no, this Uthman is someone else. Who is this Uthman? A man by the name of Uthman ibn Ambasa. Who is this Uthman ibn Ambasa? Who is this Uthman ibn Ambasa individual? Riwayat say, As-Sufyani, the man from the lineage of Abi Sufyan, his name will be Uthman ibn Ambasa. And Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, he says these words. He gives you the name. Who's this As-Sufyani guy? And I'll give you the riwayah in a second. Who is this As-Sufyani guy? As-Sufyani is the enemy of Sahib al-Asr wal-Zaman. He will stand in front of Sahib al-Amr and try to kill Sahib al-Asr wal-Zaman. He will fight him. Where does he come from? Where is the place that he will either be born in or emerge from? Min al-Wad al-Yabis, the dry valley. Where is that? In modern day Syria, Suriya. This man will be from the lineage of Abi Sufyan. Remember what I told you in the beginning? A lot of similarities between Imam Al-Mahdi and Abi Abdullah al-Hussein. Yazid versus Imam al-Hussein. As-Sufyani Uthman ibn Ambasa versus Sahib al-Asri wal-Zaman. I told you there's a connection, huh? It's a connection. 1,400 years ago, in one way or another, some details will repeat themselves when Sahib al-Amri wal-Zaman comes back. طيب, how do we know this individual? Did the riwayat explain to us, describe him? Yes. Listen what the riwayah says from Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. He says, the riwayah from Amir al-Mu'mineen, يخرج ابن آكلة الأكباد من الوادي اليابس. The man, the son of the ones who eat the livers of the dead. What is that? Do you guys know a woman by the name of Hind? Who was Hind? Hind was the wife of Abu Sufyan. And she, when she killed Hamza, she ate the liver of Hamza. And so, the people from the lineage of Abu Sufyan were known as Abna or Ibn Akilat al-Akbad. So he's referring to the fact that this person is from the lineage of Hind and Abu Sufyan. Min al-Wadi al-Yabis, from Syria. He describes him. Wahash al-Wajh, monstrous look, monstrous face, ugly face. Dakhm al-Hamah, a very wide, big forehead. بوجهه أثر الجدري, in his face he has scars. What are those scars? Smallpox scars. Back then, when smallpox was widespread, those that actually healed from smallpox, some of them would have scars on their face. Like, you tell me, Ahmad, smallpox is eradicated. I'll tell you one of two ihtimalain, one of two possibilities. Number one, that these diseases that we eradicated 100, 200 years ago will come back. Is there science to prove this? There is some science that speaks of this nature, where some of the diseases that we eradicated, whether bacterial or viral, I'm not a biologist, but will come back. Jameel, put that one aside. Another ihtimal, another possibility, that he comes from a place where the people are not modernized, where they don't have modern day vaccines. Comes from a place that is not connected to modern society. And so he was afflicted with smallpox and was healed. Jameel. إذا رأيته حسبته أعور. If you look at him, you would think that he has one eye. Jameel. اسمه عثمان وأبوه عنبسة. His name is Uthman and his father's name is Ambasa, and that's where the name Uthman ibn Ambasa comes from. وهو من ولد أبي سفيان وهو رجل سفاك للدماء. The son of Abu Sufyan, a man who is bloodthirsty. أموي النسب from Banu Umayyah. حقود على أهل البيت. حقود على hates أهل البيت عليهم السلام. Jameel. And the discussion continues. That last part I don't think it was from the Ruwai. This As-Sufyani will fight Sahib al-Asri wa Zaman, and he will bring the masses to stand in front of the Imam alayhi salam. But this man knows how he will perish. The Ruwaya says he stands and he looks towards Sana'a. ينظر إلى كاسر شوكته في صنعاء أو من صنعاء. Where's Sana'a? Yemen. He will know the man that will bring his own destruction. He will look towards Sana'a, Yemen. Sahib al-Asri wa Zaman alayhi salam will return from Mecca. Why is he looking towards Sana'a? Al-Yamani, the man from Yemen, the opposite of As-Sufyani. A man that will stand with Imam Al-Mahdi a.j. Sharif from Yemen. He will come from Sana'a, either the city or Yemen as a whole. It may have been called at that time the general area of Sana'a. He will come from Yemen, and he will have the Shi'as behind him. And he is what we call Ahdar Rayat, the most guided flags that will be of support to Sahib al-Asri wa Zaman. Is there another flag? There is. There's Al-Khurasani, the man from modern day Iran. He will also rise, but the one who is ahda, more guided, is Al-Yamani, Ridwanullah ta'ala alayh. He will stand with Sahib al-Asri wa Zaman, and his men will fight with Sahib al-Asri wa Zaman, and he will be the main supporter of the Imam, and he will lead to the downfall of As-Sufyani, who will move through the lands. Some say of Iraq, others say in Syria, and butcher the Shi'as of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. This is Al-Yamani. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. I think we can have a louder salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Jameel. Look at this riwayah from Imam Al-Baqir alayhi salam. He says, وَلَيْسَ فِي الرَّايَاتِ أَهْدَى مِنْ رَايَةِ الْيَمَانِ هِيَ رَايَةُ هُدَى لِأَنَّهُ يَدْعُ إِلَى صَاحِبِكُمْ. There is no raya, no flag more guided than the flag of Al-Yamani. Why? Because he will be calling for Imam Al-Mahdi. He will be calling for the authority of Sahib al-Asri wa Zaman. فَإِذَا خَرَجَ الْيَمَانِ. So if the Yamani comes out, he emerges, حَرَّمَ بَيْعُ السِّلَاحِ عَلَى النَّاسِ, until other details as well. When the Yamani comes back, some of the things that he will do is that he will not allow people to buy and sell weapons, etc. And there's other things that he will do. But something very important about Al-Yamani, As-Sufyani and Al-Khurasani, listen, is that the riwayah says that they will emerge in the same week, in the same day, in the same hour. I believe the riwayah says nafs as-sa'a. If not the same hour, the same month, same week, same day. They will come on to into the political, they will emerge into the political landscape in the same day. So I imagine you go to sleep and then one day you wake up, there's this guy, he just started a revolution in Yemen. There's another guy who just started a huge revolution in Khurasan, and a guy who just started a huge revolution in Syria. All in the same day. That's why don't ever say, no, there's still some time. No. These things happen very quickly. You go to sleep one day, the political landscape is in such a way. You wake up, it's totally different. Everything changes in one day. And that's how you know it's miraculous. That's how you know it's miraculous. Because one person coming out from Yemen, tayyib, fine. Next person coming out from Syria on the same day, tayyib, okay, that's weird. And then the third person, very same day, no, that's miraculous now. That's not a coincidence anymore. That's not a coincidence. And so then it becomes very clear for whoever wants guidance where to go. It becomes very clear whoever wants to stand in front of Imam Sahib al-Asri wa Zaman where to go. It becomes very clear. And whoever wants the utmost guidance, Al-Yamani. One who wants guidance, Al-Khurasani. Depends on where the person wants to go. Jameel. Lastly, or not lastly, one before last. We have قتل النفس الزكية, the killing of the pure soul. Who is the pure soul? What is this pure soul? The riwayah says, some riwayat say, that this pure soul will communicate with Imam Al-Mahdi. Will have some sort of connection with Imam Al-Mahdi where they will communicate. Imam Al-Mahdi will send this pure soul to the Kaaba. And this person will be from Banu Hashim. Some riwayat say he is a young man from Banu Hashim. He will be sent and he will stand in the Kaaba, بين الركن والمقام, right near the Kaaba, right in front of the Kaaba, and call in the name of Sahib al-Asri wa Zaman. At that point in time he will be taken and he will be slaughtered. And his blood will flow beside the Kaaba. The riwayat say after some time, maybe less than 2 or 3 weeks, some riwayat say, I believe 2 weeks or 15 days, Sahib al-Asri wa Zaman alayhi salam will return. It goes to show something to me and you. Sahib al-Asri wa Zaman, yes, he will be, depending on the ulama, sure. Depending on the fuqaha, absolutely. Depending on the elders of our community, yes. But the person that Sahib al-Asri wa Zaman sends to the Kaaba will be a young man. A younger man. A younger man with potential. Jameel. That's the second last. And then the one closest to the dhuhur, according to some, maybe there's discussion about this, but Al-Khasif bil-Bayda. What's Al-Khasif bil-Bayda? Al-Bayda is an area between Mecca and Medina, my brothers and sisters. The riwayah says that the news that Sahib al-Asri was Zaman is in Mecca will reach As-Sufyani, who will be in Medina, I believe, or his army will be near Medina, if not in Medina in itself. And it is said he would have been, at that moment in time, he would have been at the peak of his rampage, going through the nations and slaughtering and butchering Shi'at Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. He gets news that Sahib al-Asri was Zaman alayhis salam has returned in Mecca. And so he will send an army from Medina to Mecca. He will send his army to Mecca. When they are in Al-Bayda, place between Mecca and Medina, the earth will open and swallow these individuals. You tell me, Ahmad, that's pretty crazy. Like, come on. Like, no. Has this happened? Absolutely, it's happened. This is a real geological event where the earth will open up and has opened up before, and you can go online and you can see pictures where entire city blocks and buildings were swallowed by the earth. Absolutely, it's happened. And it's a real phenomenon. It's a real phenomenon. The earth will open up and swallow the entire army. 2 individuals will be saved. 2 individuals will be saved. One will return back to Al-Yamani, or Afwan As-Sufyani, and one, from my recollection, will go to, I think Sahib al-Asri was Zaman or Al-Yamani. He will go and they will spread the news of what happened in Al-Bayda. They will spread the news of what happened in Al-Bayda. These are the 5 signs of Sahib al-Asri was Zaman's return. And these events happen close to or before the coming of the Imam. Tomorrow, my brothers and sisters, we will continue this discussion, because a lot of the times after the Ashr, everyone disappears. If not tomorrow, rather, the day after, because tomorrow's Al-Ashr, yes? The day after. Everyone disappears after Al-Ashr. So I want to keep you guys hooked. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about the events that happen after Sahib al-Asri was Zaman returns. What's going on? Who will return? Do you know that some of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam will return to the earth? The riwayat of Raj'a. Do you know who is the person? He asked, who's the person that will bury Sahib al-Amri was Zaman? We say that only an Imam is only able to wash an Imam. Yes? Only an Imam is able to pray over another Imam. Who is going to pray over Sahib al-Asri was Zaman when he is killed? ما منا إلا مقتول بالسيف أو مسموم. Every one of Ahl al-Bayt is either killed with the sword or poison. Sahib al-Asri was Zaman will be killed. How will he be killed? Who will pray over him? You'll find out tomorrow, my brothers and sisters, and then see another connection between Sahib al-Asri was Zaman and Imam al-Hussein, where the one who will stand over Sahib al-Asri was Zaman's body is none other than Abi Abdullah al-Hussein. Yes. And you will see tomorrow, inshaAllah ta'ala. Naam. Tonight we are with Sahib al-Asri was Zaman. Tonight we are with Sahib al-Asri was Zaman to console the Imam alayhi salam. And so if I wanted to say some words to touch Sahib al-Asri was Zaman for his return, for him to come back, many words, many things. There's a poem that begins, and you all know it, Allah ya ham al-Sharia. Allah ya ham al-Sharia. The poet speaks to Sahib al-Asri was Zaman and tells him, how can you sit knowing what happened? How can you sit knowing what happened on the day of Ashura? Knowing what's happening to your Shi'as, Ya Sahib al-Amri was Zaman, come back to us. But I say, which words truly hurt Sahib al-Asri was Zaman? These words, my brothers and sisters. Listen to what the Sha'ir says. He says, حيث الحسين على الثرى خيل العدا طحن الضلوع. Hussein on the ground of Karbala, and the horses pounding on his chest. قتلته آل أمية ظلم إلى جنب الشريع. The one that Bani Umayyah killed thirsty, oppressed near the Euphrates River. ورضيعه بدم الوريد مخضبون فاطلب رضيعه. And his young son, his newborn baby, who was killed and was smeared with the blood of his throat. Come back, Ya Sahib al-Zaman, and avenge his newborn son. Na'am, na'am. Many tragedies touch Sahib al-Amr, but the killing of Abdullah al-Radhi' is one that shook the entire world. Ajarakumullah. After the martyrdom of Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas, Imam al-Hussein looked and saw there were no supporters left. He looked at his family and companions slaughtered like lambs, while hearing the wailing of the women and screaming of the children. He called out in his highest voice, هل من ذاب عن حرم رسول الله? Is there anyone who will defend the daughters of Rasulullah? Is there a muwahhid, one who fears Allah, a monotheist that fears Allah and will support us? Is there not anyone who has hope in Allah that will come to our rescue? Hearing this, the woman's voices raised and crying. Imam al-Sajjad stood leaning on a staff, dragging his sword. He was coming towards Imam al-Hussein, and Sayyidah Kulthum behind him calling out, my son, return. He says, my aunt, let me fight between the hands of the son of Rasulullah. Imam al-Hussein said to her, Ya Kulthum, take him back, lest the earth be devoid of the offspring of Muhammad. In a narration, the Imam came to his son. He carried him back to the tent and said to him, Ya waladi, ma turidu an tasna'? My son, what do you want to do? He said to him, Ya Aba, inna nidaka qad qata'niyat qalbi وهيج ساكن لبي أريد أن أفديك. Father, Father, hearing your call broke my heart. I want to fight for you on this day. It said when the Imam put his son back, he was getting himself ready to leave for the battlefield. Sayyidah Zainab min al-Rabam came to Imam al-Hussein. In their heart, in their hands, they held the young son of Abi Abdullah by the name of Abdullah al-Radhi', who was only 6 months old. The baby was crying from thirst, and his mother wasn't able to feed him anymore. Sayyidah Zainab cried and said, Akhi, khudh tuflak, brother, take your child. He put him in his lap and kissed him, bidding him farewell, saying, بعدا لهؤلاء القوم إذا كان جدك away with these people when your grandfather Rasulullah will be their opponent on the day of judgment. The riwayah says the Imam then stood up. He picked up his son. He carried him with him towards the deserts of Karbala. Why? He went down to the enemies. Why? Maybe they would give this young boy some water, huh? The Imam stood in front of the people. Ajarakumullah. He said, "O people, You killed my brothers, my children, and my supporters. No one has remained for me other than this child. He's burning from thirst. He has done nothing to deserve this. So give him some water. The people divided. Some wanted to give the child some water, while others said, kill everyone from this family. Umar ibn Sa'd turned towards Harmala and said to him, وَيْلَكَ يَا حَرْمَلَةَ اقْطَعْ نِزَاعَ الْقَوْمِ. Harmala, stop the arguing of the people of my army. So Harmala said, فَمَا أَصْنَعْ. What do you want me to do? He said, ارْمِ الطَّفْلَ بِالسَّهْمِ. Shoot the baby with an arrow. Harmala says, I put an arrow. I aimed it out at the child. I was looking at the spot to shoot the baby. Then a breeze blew over the plains of Karbala, and the cloth covering the neck of the baby fell from its spot. I saw the neck of this baby shine like a silver pot. I aimed my bow and let go of the arrow. The arrow found its place. It pierced one side of Abdullah and came out from the other side. When Harmala shot the baby and Abdullah felt the pain of the arrow, he took his hands and hugged the Imam's neck. He began shivering like a slaughtered bird. Imam Al-Hussein filled his hands with the blood of Abdullah. He threw it to the sky. Imam Al-Baqir says not a single drop of blood came down from the sky. Then the Imam said, هون ما نزل أنه بعين الله هون ما نزل بي أين أنه بعون الله. I find satisfaction in the fact that what has befallen me is in the hands, in the eyes, in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Imam heard a call from the sky saying, leave him Hussein, for he has a nurse in heaven. The Imam walked with his bloody son back to the camp. Who met him? Sukaina, who was burning from thirst. She said to him, أبا يا حسين لعلك سقيت أخي الماء وجئتنا ببقيته. Father Hussein, maybe you gave my brother some water and had some leftovers for us. He turned to her crying, saying, بني 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 خذي أخاك مذبوحا من الوريد إلى الوريد. Daughter, take your brother slaughtered from one side to the other. When she saw Abdullah, she screamed, Wa Abdullah. When his mother saw him pierced, she screamed, Wa walada. As for the women, when they saw Abdullah covered in blood and slaughtered, they screamed for him loudly. Kulthum brought him towards her chest. She put her neck on his. Her eyes flowed and she shouted, Wa Muhammada wa Aliya ماذا لقينا بعدكما من الأعداء. Ya Muhammad, Ya Ali, what have we seen from the enemies after you? لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين. Tonight is the last night we are with Abi Abdullah al-Hussein. It's as if we turn towards the sky. We speak to the moon. We speak to the night. We say, O night, prolong your hours. O night, we are with Abi Abdullah al-Hussein. Tomorrow he'll be slaughtered. Tomorrow he'll be killed. Tomorrow he'll be sacrificed. O night, prolong your hours. Give us time with Abi Abdullah al-Hussein. But the one on the day of Ashura, rather the night of Ashura, the one that was saying these words was none other than Sayyida Zainab. So it's as if she speaks to the night and she says to the night, يا ليل طول ساعاتك، يا ليل احمل آهاتك، يا ليل طول ساعاتك، يا ليل احمل آهاتك، لو ودعت الوليان تتولاني العدوان، يا ليل طول ساعاتك، يا ليل احمل آهاتك، يا ليل طول ساعاتك، يا ليل احمل آهاتك، لو ودعت الوليان تتولاني العدوان، طول يا ليل الوداع، إش ما تطول وياك ساهر، ما أميل مني البواجي، حتى أهلو تمن واضير، حسين بس هالليل يمي وما تشوف عيوني باجير، صدقني يا ليل القهار، يا ريتك تطول دهار، خايفة من أشباح القدر، وخاف ظل مكسور خاطيل، يا ليل ارحم دلالي، يا ليل ضاعت آمالي، يا ليل ارحم دلالي، يا ليل ضاعت آمالي، أي دهري الخوان تتولاني العدوان، يا ليل طول ساعتك، يا ليل احمل آهاتك، يا ليل طول ساعتك، يا ليل احمل آهاتك، لو ودعت الويليام تتولاني العدوان، أنا يا ليل العقيلة زينب المعروف خدري خدري طولي مع واحد الشافة ولا ستير يوصل الستري. الله أكبر الله أكبر. She says, I am Zainab. I'm the one that no one has seen how tall I am. Tomorrow, where am I going to be? Tomorrow I'm going to be walking beside Shem. But this is me, Zainab. أنا يا لي للعقيلة زينب المعروف خدري طولي مع واحد الشافة ولا ستير يوصل الستري. لكن يا ليش بديا سلمت للقدر أمري دمعاتي يبسن بالجفين من يطور مصباح الحزين بطفال وبعلم تحين من يطور مصباح الحزين بطفال وبعلم تحين والله ما ينحمل صبري يا ليل كافي تروعني يا ليل صبحك يفجعني يا ليل كافي تروعني يا ليل صبحك يفجعني لو نزلوا للميدان تتولاني العدوان. All together يا ليل طول ساعتك يا ليل احمل آهاتك يا ليل طول ساعاتك يا ليل احمل آهاتك لو ودعت الوليان تتولاني العدوان لو ودعت الوليان تتولاني العدوان. نسألك اللهم وندعوك بأحب الخلق إليك محمد وآل محمد. We ask you by Muhammad وآل Muhammad, Ya Allah, accept this majlis from us, Ya Allah. Forgive us for our sins, Ya Allah. Accept our amal, Ya Allah. Accept our aza in these last 10 nights, Ya Allah. Make us from the supporters of Sahib al-Amri wal-Zaman. Give us our desires, our needs in this world and in the hereafter, Ya Arhamar Rahimeen. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. زيارة أبي عبد الله الحسين all together my brothers and sisters. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله. السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله. السلام عليك يا ابن أمير المؤمنين وابن سيد الوصيين. السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة سيدة نساء العالمين. السلام عليك يا ثار الله وابن ثاره والوتر الموتور. السلام عليك وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليكم مني جميعا سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار. يا أبا عبد الله لقد عظمت الرزية وجلت وعظمت المصيبة بك علينا وعلى جميع أهل الإسلام وجلت وعظمت مصيبتك في السماوات على جميع أهل السماوات. فلعن الله أمة أسست أساس الظلم والجور عليكم أهل البيت. ولعن الله أمة دفعتكم عن مقامكم وأزالتكم عن مراتبكم التي رتبكم الله فيها. ولعن الله أمة قتلتكم. ولعن الله الممهدين لهم بالتمكين من قتالكم. برئت إلى الله وإليكم منهم ومن أشياعهم وأتباعهم وأوليائهم. يا أبا عبد الله إني سلم لمن سالمكم وحرب لمن حاربكم إلى يوم القيامة. ولعن الله آل زياد وآل مروان. ولعن الله بني أمية قاطبة. ولعن الله ابن مرجانة. ولعن الله عمر بن سعد. ولعن الله شمرا. ولعن الله أمة أسرجت وألجمت وتنقبت لقتالك بأبي أنت وأمي. لقد عظم مصابي بك فأسأل الله الذي أكرم مقامك وأكرمني بك أن يرزقني طلب ثارك مع إمام منصور من أهل بيت محمد صلى الله عليه وآله. اللهم اجعلني عندك وجيها بالحسين عليه السلام في الدنيا والآخرة. يا أبا عبد الله إني أتقرب إلى الله وإلى رسوله وإلى أمير المؤمنين وإلى فاطمة وإلى الحسن وإليك بموالاتك وبالبراءة ممن قاتلك ونصب لك الحرب وبالبراءة ممن أسس أساس الظلم والجور عليكم. وأبرأ إلى الله وإلى رسوله ممن أسس أساس ذلك وبنى عليه بنيانه وجرى في ظلمه وجوره عليكم وعلى أشياعكم. برئت إلى الله وإليكم منهم وأتقرب إلى الله ثم إليكم بموالاتكم وموالاة وليكم وبالبراءة من أعدائكم والناصبين لكم الحرب وبالبراءة من أشياعهم وأتباعهم. إني سلم لمن سالمكم وحرب لمن حاربكم وولي لمن والاكم وعدو لمن عاداكم. فأسأل الله الذي أكرمني بمعرفتكم ومعرفة أوليائكم ورزقني البراءة من أعدائكم أن يجعلني معكم في الدنيا والآخرة وأن يثبت لي عندكم قدم صدق في الدنيا والآخرة. وأسأله أن يبلغني المقام المحمود لكم عند الله وأن يرزقني طلب ثاري مع إمام هدى ظاهر ناطق بالحق منكم. وأسأل الله بحقكم وبالشأن الذي لكم عنده أن يعطيني بمصابي بكم أفضل ما يعطي مصابا بمصيبته، مصيبة ما أعظمها وأعظم رزيتها في الإسلام وفي جميع السماوات والأرض. اللهم اجعلني في مقامي هذا ممن تناله منك صلوات ورحمة ومغفرة. اللهم اجعل محياي محيا محمد وآل محمد، ومماتي ممات محمد وآل محمد. اللهم إن هذا يوم تبركت به بنو أمية، وابن آكلة الأكباد اللعين ابن اللعين، على لسانك ولسان نبيك صلى الله عليه وآله في كل موطن وموقف وقف فيه نبيك صلى الله عليه وآله. اللهم لعن أبا سفيان ومعاوية ويزيد بن معاوية، عليهم منك اللعنة أبد الآبدين. وهذا يوم فرحت به آل زياد وآل مروان بقتلهم الحسين صلوات الله عليه. اللهم فضاعف عليهم اللعن منك والعذاب الأليم. اللهم إني أتقرب إليك في هذا اليوم وفي موقفي هذا وأيام حياتي بالبراءة منهم واللعنة عليهم، وبالموالاة لنبيك وآل نبيك عليه وعليهم السلام. اللهم لعن أول ظالم ظلم حق محمد وآل محمد، وآخر تابعا له على ذلك. اللهم لعن العصابة التي جاهدت الحسين وشايعت وبايعت وتابعت على قتله. اللهم لعنهم جميعا. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله، وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت، وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. All of us together, my brothers and sisters. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. اللهم خص أنت أول ظالم باللعن مني، وابدأ به أولا ثم لعن الثاني والثالث والرابع. اللهم لعن يزيد خامسا، ولعن عبيد الله بن زياد وابن مرجانة وعمر بن سعد وشمراه وآل أبي سفيان وآل زياد وآل مروان إلى يوم القيامة. اللهم لك الحمد حمد الشاكرين لك على مصابهم. الحمد لله على عظيم رزيتي. اللهم ارزقني شفاعة الحسين عليه السلام يوم الورود، وثبت لي قدم صدق عندك مع الحسين وأصحاب الحسين الذين بذلوا مهجهم دون الحسين عليه السلام. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. اللهم صل على محمد. Let's recite Dua al-Faraj together. This is the night of Sahib al-Asr wal-Zaman. All of us together. One voice, my brothers and sisters. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. اللهم صل على محمد. My brothers and sisters, let's recite Surah Al-Mubarakat Al-Fatiha للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والشهداء والعلماء وعلى من مات على حب أمير المؤمنين والولاء خصوصا الحاج عبد الله حسين مرتضى والحجة فاطمة حسين مرتضى, and also a relative of mine that passed away in Iraq, or Afwan in Lebanon a few days ago, Al-Hajj Abu Hassan Asbayti. He was buried yesterday. So recite Surah Al-Fatiha, and if you can give sadaqah on his behalf, and if you're unable to, Salat Al-Wahsha, even though it may be, maybe too late, but still, that I would greatly appreciate that. Jazakumullah khair. Let's recite Surah Al-Mubarakat Al-Fatiha before it. Allah salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Jazakallah khair. Our Sunni brothers and sisters don't believe that Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam are ma'asumeen, infallible. Is there any proof that they are? Is it mentioned in the Quran? There's more than one way we can tackle this question. But in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He gives us Ayat al-Tathir, which is pretty much the slogan of the Shia because of the significance of Ayat al-Tathir. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. The ayah that says Allah only wants to push away from you, not extract from you, push away from you any rijs, and we'll discuss what rijs means in a second, from you Ahl al-Bayt, and purify you a thorough purification. And so we know that Allah Ta'ala wants to push away, put mechanisms in place, this mechanism or this thing called asma, to push away something called rijs. طيب rijs, what is rijs? It's very similar to a word that we know, maybe najis, rijs, najis. The word najis means something that is dirty, and we usually use it to mean or to indicate something that is physically dirty. As for rijs, it's more general. Anything that is considered to be vile or dirty, whether it's spiritual or physical. And the most prominent of the physical najasat, or rather spiritual najasat, please forgive me, and I'm a little dizzy. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And the most prominent of the spiritual najasat, rather, is sin. So that's how we know they are infallible, alayhimus salam. Similarly, because their job, or they are here to spread the message of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they must not forget and not make a mistake. Because imagine Rasulullah or one of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam coming and telling you, pray in this way. He tells you exactly how to pray. But there's a chance he'll make a mistake in explaining salat. So we don't have something in place to say, no, he will not make a mistake. So therefore, there's a possibility that when he says, this is how you pray, he's making a mistake. He leaves something out. He adds something. He says something in the wrong way. I mean, just in my lecture for an hour, how many times did I say a word and then I said, no, rather, this is the word. Right now it just happened. Slip of a tongue. It's normal. Human beings have that. How do you know that Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam are giving us the true religion of Rasulullah? It's through asma. The fact that they don't forget, the fact that they don't make a mistake means that what is getting to us is exactly what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to convey. And lastly, Allah ta'ala in the Quran, He says, وَمَا يَنْطِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيٌ يُوحَىٰ. It's not لَا يَنْطِقُ, وَمَا يَنْطِقُ, yes? وَمَا يَنْطِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيٌ يُوحَىٰ. He doesn't speak. Rasulullah doesn't speak from himself. Rather, it is a revelation every time he speaks. And if it's Allah ta'ala essentially speaking through the tongue of Rasulullah, then is he going to make a mistake? Absolutely not. And Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam are there to continue what Rasulullah came with. And so therefore, they should have the same characteristics of Rasulullah, yes, except wahi. Because they are not the messengers of Allah. They are there to spread the message of Rasulullah. So they don't have wahi. And that's the main difference between an imam and a prophet. The prophet has wahi, while the imam does not have wahi, revelation. So I hope that satisfies the question. And I used Quranic ayat, my brothers and sisters, not a hadith. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. I'll save one of these questions for tomorrow because it's a very, very good one about compulsion in Islam. I'll save that one for tomorrow because that one needs a little bit of time, and we'll discuss that one tomorrow, inshallah. Some of our Sunni brothers and sisters claim that Uthman was the one who preserved the Quran. She argued, why do you read the Quran when the ones who preserved it were a bunch of pagans according to you? What comebacks do you have to this? How can we prove that Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam were the ones that preserved the Quran? Simply put, again, this is also one that I'll go in great detail tomorrow or the days to come about these two. But very simply for this one, is that if Uthman was the one that preserved the Quran, before Uthman, where was the Quran? What was happening with the Quran? Was it not preserved? There's one of two answers. Either it was preserved or it was not preserved. If Uthman was the one that preserved the Quran, he was the one that wrote it down on pieces of paper, and we have the Quran in front of us today in the way it was because it was Uthman. Before Uthman. Uthman was the third Khalifa. You had Abu Bakr. And then you had Umar, then you had Uthman, which I think was about maybe 15 or some odd years, maybe 17 years or something. 11 years? Ahsan, there you go. That's my guy right there for history. Ahsan. 11 years. Yes? For 11 years, where was the Quran? Was it preserved? Was it being changed? Who was preserving it? Not Uthman ibn Affan. Uthman ibn Affan wasn't really, there's not much, he wasn't really there. Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam were there. Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam was there, and there's countless hadith to indicate that. What did Uthman actually do? Uthman actually brought together the qara'in and burnt them with the excuse that we want to have one unified Quran. Fact of the matter is, the Qur'ans were burnt because there were tafasir, explanations of the Qur'an on hawamish al-Qur'an. So on the sides of the Qur'an before, they would have tafsir, explanation of the verse, or saying that this verse came down in this situation, this verse came down for Ali bin Abi Talib, this verse came down for this reason and that reason. And that was threatening to those in power because it spoke about the merits of Ahlul Bayt and Ahlul Bayt in the Qur'an. For example, وَكَفَى اللَّهُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ الْقِتَالِ بِعَلَيْهِ. In the Quran, Allah Ta'ala says, وَكَفَى اللَّهُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ الْقِتَالِ. And that is the ayah. The ashab And the mu'mineen at the time, they used to read it, وَكَفَى اللَّهُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ الْقِتَالِ بِعَلَيْهِ. And this word بِعَلَيْهِ, through alayh, was tafsir. And so this tafsir was threatening. So makes sense, bring all the Qur'ans together, burn them, so that the explanation of these verses is no more. And then bring back the actual Qur'an and the actual words in the written text. That's aside from the fact that we have riwayat that are clear, and also riwayat of our Sunni brothers and sisters that are clear, in that there were those that used to transcribe everything Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, to the degree where there was one of the companions, his name is madhkur in the riwayat, it's in the riwayat itself, I believe. He used to write down everything Rasulullah said. Two men from the companions, I'm not going to say their names, they came to this man and said, do you actually write down everything Rasulullah is saying? And they started to make fun of him and belittle him. So Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, after hearing of this, or this man came to Rasulullah and said, so-and-so said this to me, he refused, and he told him, no, transcribe, write down everything that you hear, right? And more than this, and inshallah tomorrow I'll bring riwayat from Sunni sources, with the sources themselves, I'll say the sources themselves to further strengthen this idea. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So this one is simple. Why is Shahr Ramadan every year pushed by a month, pushed back by a month? It's pushed back by about 10 days, not by a month. Reason being is because the Georgian calendar, the calendar that we have, the solar calendar, the one that we have, January, February, March, April, May, it goes by the seasons, right? So it's a set calendar, right? January is always going to have this amount of days, while February fluctuates out of, every 4 years, whatever. But the other ones, they all have a set amount of days, yeah? And it's dependent on the calendar, or dependent on the weather, rather, right? So December is never going to be in the summer, right? And vice versa. And July is never going to be in the winter. Shahr Ramadan depends on the solar calendar, right? Oh my God, I'm so tired. The Islamic calendar depends on the lunar calendar, which fluctuates. Some months are 30 days, some months are 29 days. And because of that fluctuation, you have about 10 days between the years where the calendar shifts. So there isn't a month between every Shahr Ramadan, it's about 10 days. Okay? Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. I'll try to read that and get back to you tomorrow. Do we know how the battle between Al-Yamani and As-Sufyani will be fought? With modern day war tactics, I think that's, as wars today are fought with guns, and what about nuclear warfare? That's for tomorrow, inshallah ta'ala. We'll discuss that if I can get answers. Some of these questions, I'll be honest with you guys, I don't know everything. Some of these questions I know, some of the questions I need for tomorrow, inshallah. Some of them I need longer answers and I don't have time. So we'll keep that one for tomorrow, because I frankly don't know, and I'm not going to speak something I don't know. Inshallah, we'll discuss that or try to allude to that tomorrow, bi'awnillah ta'ala. Jazakumullah khair. Please, my brothers and sisters, let's leave row by row, because we're getting bunched up. Okay, so there's no one outside. Hadi Habib, is there anyone outside? No? Okay, first row for the guys, and then I don't know how the girls want to do it. Row closest to the door, and then move like that, I guess. First row of the guys, tafadhalu, bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. And then second row, guys, tawakkalu Allah. And just go row by row, please. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.